All right, let's get started. So finally, we can set it up and we can move on. Last session, we covered, we talked about dictionaries, and then we talked about list of dictionaries. We said, every dictionary records look like ID, key and values. The keys are basically the same for different dictionaries. If you're using like that dictionary for similar cases, the values change. Then we talk about list of dictionaries. That's when we talk about database. Say, hey, this is how the database looks like in this environment, and how you pull the data from database, and then you start to load it into dictionaries. So if I go back to our case, what we covered. Oh, right. So first we started with dictionaries, and we created one assignment. One assignment with the key and with the value. And then we said, if you're trying to access a key in a dictionary, it's a good practice to check it first before you access the value in that key. What I mean by that is here in this line, we say, before we try to print out the assignment title, check whether that key actually exists in that dictionary. The key here is title. And that at least helps you to, in a lot of cases, that you don't see type of errors like the key doesn't exist. We said how you can add a new key to the dictionary. Just type the dictionary inside the square bracket. When you type a new name and that key doesn't exist in the dictionary as a key, then it just automatically adds that key to the dictionary, and then you can store value in it. If you want to update a value in a dictionary, you say, okay, dictionary, and inside the square brackets, the name of the key, and then you can try to change the value and update the value here. We don't deal with one assignment, we deal with many assignments. Okay, we deal with many assignments. That's why we moved on to lists of dictionaries. Now we have lists of assignments. You can see that the keys are the same inside course data. So the keys are the same, the values are changing, and you're adding other like new assignments to the course data. How do you add a new assignment? Course data is the type of list. So you can use append to add a new record, add a new item to the list. In this case, each item in the list is a dictionary. And then we talk about, okay, let's print out. So, all right, let's go to the notes. So far we've covered these topics from variables to list, to assignment dictionary, to list of dictionaries. We'll talk about this a little bit later. We talked about the loops. These are very important. We talk about how we can loop through a list using for. Okay. Using for, that's what we did in terms of a list. So we created a list, and then we try to search through a list, inside the list, looking for a specific assignment. Here we just print it out, so it's just a print, yes. Sure. It's the FS string, right? So if we want to, basically, whenever you want to create a string and you want to insert a variable, inside a string, you use F before. I will try to print, like, do the same code. Okay, let me just do this two different ways so you see what is the difference. The difference is here, I could have just said print, okay, title, and then assignment, title. Okay. Either do this or use F before the double quotation and then insert it inside the string. You might say, okay, why do we do this? We use that the other one is simple. A lot of times you're gonna have a very long string. You want to describe things and you don't want to type print. Simply just you want to create the longest string and insert these values into the string in different places. Hey, assignment, this was deleted at this time. Why? Who, right? I created the string and then printed out. Instead of using print, you use FS string, F just before the double quotation. Great. Any other question? Good. All right. So we talked about a way to iterate through a list to find the index. What is the index? Index is the exact location in the list that that assignment is located. The list is like, let's say it includes 10 assignments, and we want to see, like, we want to look for an assignment, see if it exists, and if it exists, where it is located inside that list. Why that matters, a lot of times you're going to need that index. For example, for deleting an assignment, you're going to need the index to be able to delete it from the list. You won't say title just remove it. No, you use delete and then exactly delete based on an index. So a lot of times we are actually going to need to look for an item in a list and find the index, find exactly where in a list it is located. So we talk about this counter. So we created a variable set it to 0. What is counter? Every time you're iterating through the list and checking for an assignment, if that's not the assignment we are looking for, then we need to add 1 to the value of counter. That's how the counter moves on as much as every time we move through the list, 1 at a time. So if the counter equals counter plus 1. If we find it, we already found it. That counter is equal to the index. So that's the counter holds the value or like the index value. A lot of times you're going to see this thing, okay? It's short, like if you see counter equals counter plus 1, a lot of times you're going to see this version now. Counter plus equal 1. Or counter minus equal 1. Or counter division equal 1. These are just shorts for counter equals counter divide. Counter is just a variable. It could have been like an index underline or index or any variable you name it, just so that you can store the index value of like the location that that assignment is stored inside a variable. All right. Great. Questions about this? There is a different way to do this. Okay. There's a different way to do this using enumeration. Okay. So that's just a similar way, but in a different design. Index, assignment in course data. Okay. This part I have where we are covering. So index, assignment, course data. So we want to like iterate through the course data. Okay. That's it. Okay. We can just simply like the same way. Okay. The same way we can like search through it. But here's the thing. I will just say if, okay, if, again, oh, flashback to C#. Title and assignment and assignment title is equal to, okay, that's the, let me, if I can bring my cursor here. Where is my cursor? Okay. This one, okay. So what is the difference now sorry, I forgot. Here we should have typed enumerate. Enumerate and then course data. Inside the parentheses, course data. Let me zoom in a little bit. All right. So the difference here is that we didn't have enumerate, we typed enumerate, and inside the parentheses, you specify the list. Specify the list. And then if you use that and every time you're iterating through the loop, that kind of like index carries the value of the index that assignment is located in. That's why you can simply then, if you type, okay, index, and I'm going to use the other way, index, okay, then you can break. Right. Actually, I'm going to change this so you see index using counter, index using enum, right? So what is the difference here? The difference here is that we created that variable and then we kind of try to increase its value as we iterate it. Or if you use enumerate, by adding that index, it automatically kind of does the same path, but out of the code. You're not doing it yourself. It's the same pattern, just coded differently. So if I run it, should get the same result here. Okay. So index using enumeration 1 and oh, I think we didn't have using counter. Did we have a counter? All right. I'm sure I'm missing something. We printed this one, but we didn't print the other one. Missing counter. The title is an assignment and title is enumeration. Encounter. Okay, very strange. Okay, let me just delete this. What am I missing here? It's very strange. It actually printed out the second one, not the first one. It's the same code. All right, I can check it later. But you can see two versions of the same code. The important thing is like learning different ways to do this because like it depends. Sometimes I myself, I don't use that much enumerate. If I want to code it, I would probably just prefer to code it myself. So I probably use the first version of like iterating through a list, just like this. Just create a variable myself. It's much kind of like intuitive or like some of them trying to understand. Okay, so two ways to like go through a list to find an index. Okay, let's just commit this and then we can move on to the next part. Git status. Okay, git add dot git commit um review loop enum. All right, and then git push. All right. So for the next few things that I want to talk about. I will just like show you the code. We don't want to spend that much time on them, so we can move on to the code section. These are the basically the codes that probably you work with and you're very familiar with. Just a simple like if and else, or like else if you have multiple logical checks if you want to do. A lot of times you will need this for validation. If you're getting an input from the user, you want to validate them. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Can I see your git commit again?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I didn't notice here. Thank you. First you stage it with get add. Git status just gives you an idea of like what files have changed. Git add dot stages it, and then git commit you and git commit dash m, then the text. You specify what is the title of the commit, and then git push. Thank you. All right, thank you. So going back, a lot of validations will happen. This is the ones that actually you will see them. We have to do them when we build UIs. Okay, we have to validate inputs before we attempt to record them. Behind the scene, every time the user adds and some information behind the scene, we need to validate them. We need to check them. What if the user provides an invalid value? Hey, I'm asking you for your name, and your name has to be like, let's say, only characters, but you put like you added numbers. I'm asking for your age. You input like number. You input character instead of number. So you want to check them and validate them. Make sure that the inputs are correct before you attempt to record them. So this happens before you attempt, right? You don't try to collect the inputs and record them, and then something happens when you're recording. The database rejects your attempt because the data has already been basically these input specified in the database. Hey, age can be numbered. Age is a number field. Title is a character field, right? You don't want to get that error. You want to like validate it at UI before you even attempt to go to database. So let's go here. What do I mean by that? Here, as a teacher, I can create an assignment, right? I can add an assignment to the platform. So first, I have this feedbacks. It doesn't matter for now the progress, but for some reason it's not showing. Do you see this part? That I kind of have a validation message to say these are missing. As long as you don't like input them, you're not gonna be able to record an assignment. And the other thing I've put as a validation is that if when the user wants to click to record, it doesn't become a button. This is an inactive button. You see, I cannot click on it. It doesn't happen. It's a validation check. It always makes sure that the user has provided the right input needed for recording an assignment. So let's say I will just say test one. Okay, I'm gonna check it. Now, what did it change? Now it only said it removed the title from the validation. Description, question, and schedule. So I'm gonna try to do it. Just description, something here. I need to at least have one question here. Okay, so this is it doesn't matter. And then specify the dates. You see the validation check get updated. These are things that I put if this, if that, like update that line, right? So I'm gonna like select the time, and that validation message should disappear, okay? And then you see the change. Now the button is active. This validation is very important at UI before you even attempt to create, like record any data to the database. So you want to check the input that you're collecting from the user, and then what type of validation you need for each one of them. Okay. All right. How about the like operations, operands? Again, these are probably you're very familiar with, like double equal for checking for equality. So if status is equal, you want to say that it's double equal. checking for greater or equal, less than equal, or other feature like things. Comparing to a strings. If you want to compare to a strings, you use like equality or inequality in this case. So basic things. We can have a. You want to double check, for example, if you have two conditions to apply, you can like use and. Okay, then use and to compare like two conditions. Then by that. And then quickly, this is the one that I was talking about, that it is good to check if the key exists before you attempt to use it in a dictionary. If the key doesn't exist and you attempt to access it, you will get a key error. You see key error, that just means that like the key doesn't exist in that dictionary. You want to check it? You might say the index error, that means just like you attempted to like check a list, like item in a list that is outside of the range. So if you define some loop that searches through the list up to like index 20, let's say, but the list only has like 10 items, then you're trying to check something that doesn't exist in the list, and it will give you out of range error. And then kind of like these are more basically common errors. I wanted to give you a hint, like basics. All right. Finally, we're there. CRUD pattern. Every business application, every module that we are going to implement will include CRUD. What's a CRUD? It stands for 4 different things. Every one of things that you've done when you like work with database or like before. Create, read, update, and delete. So if you create a module, you're going to create CRUD for it. New module, assignment. What are the features I'm going to create to the assignment? I should be able to create an assignment. I should be able to update an assignment. I should be able to view an assignment details or read. I should be able to delete an assignment. Okay, so CRUD. Every module, think of a different module. What's a different module? Rubric. Add rubric. If you're creating a new rubric, add a rubric or create a new rubric. Update the rubric. Remove a rubric. And then search for rubrics. Right? So this CRUD will come with every new module that you create. You want to implement these items for it. Before that, I want to talk about this pattern. Okay. The workflow, or like the input, process, output, way of coding. This is my favorite way of coding, and I want to make sure that we use that pattern throughout the semester. It's a key for coding scalably, or for a scalable design. Right? It's a pattern that no one probably talks about it. They just like throw out the code and think that like this is yeah, it works, but it only works as much as like you just try to learn some topic. You don't want to do that here. You want to actually learn how to correctly write code and not just type some code that works. Okay. So the design matters. And for that design, we want to implement codes that they have clear, separated sections or tasks. Input, process, output. Every time I will give you a code or a query, a question, you want to think about this. What is the input here? What are the processes I'm supposed to like run on it? Or the tasks, processes, tasks. And then what is the output? You want to think about this. Output should be clearly separated from process. Output should be separated, clearly separated from process. Every time you're coding, we are looking for verbs. Every verb is an action. Find an assignment. Update an assignment. Find a student. Find a teacher. Find a course. Okay? It's different from update the course. It's different from display information. finding and displaying, these are two different tasks. So keep that in mind. You should not put them together. First find, and then in the next phase, you're gonna display information or like do another task. Find an assignment, update an assignment, display information. So clearly separate these tasks, and we'll see them in example, and I will talk about them. Why it matters? Because when we get to, if we start practicing them for now, then you see that the importance of like using methods and then classes over the like week 5, week 6. And then this is the concept of reusing, reusability. That's the key word we want to learn this course. What does that mean to be like coding for reusability? How often do you do tasks that include copy pasting things that you've done before, just changing the inputs or changing the like the data in that file? Have you thought about, can I create a template for it? Hey, I'm doing this every day. I'm creating this table. I'm doing this every day. The only thing I'm changing is like the values. Have you thought about creating a template for it? Just use the template and then input the like add the inputs or like add the other information. Or kind of like sometimes you can add other things, but you have kind of a basic thing. That's your template. Then you extend it for different projects. For a document, you say, hey, I write a report, and that report usually looks like this. It has the structure. And every time I want to do it, that's like, why do I do it every time I create that file like from the scratch? Why not have a template for it and reuse it? So want to learn how to like code for reusability. And we will see the impacts of that in our coding and how much it makes it easier to code. All right, so first, let's create this new file. We're gonna add this new file 06, and it is crude or crude.py. Probably not the right title. It's the 10th. Okay, it's the 10th. So I'm gonna probably like I will rename it so you don't get confused about this. It's the 10th. Okay, 10. 10 crude, right? So we moved on here to crude. I'm gonna type this here, crude. Okay. First, we are working on create or add. Create or add. All right. So first, I want to create a list for assignments. Okay. So I will create assignments equals a list. Let's have an empty list. All right. Then we need this next ID number. Why do we need that? We want to simulate database. How do you record a new, like, how do you add a new record to a table in the database? Every time you attempt to record it, do you add the primary key? The primary key means that every record in the table is uniquely identified with a number. And how do you assign it? You don't assign it. It's usually assigned by the system. It generates that random key, that random number. First, generates it, then adds it to the other rest of the data that you've provided, title, assignment, description, everything puts together, then attempts to record it. Okay, kind of that simulation database. So here, if I attempt to record it, first I need a primary key or I need a key for every assignment. So I want to simulate that. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this next ID number. I will set it to 1. Okay. That's the ID number. Now, let me create one key. Let me create one key. What is that key? The key pattern is going to be this new Let me see, new key. We're going with the new ID. Okay, my document is about new ID. So new ID. What is that? It is homework plus str, which is we are creating a string for this. So the IDs are stored as a string. So I need to use str to convert that number. That's why we have to start just converting a string to number. So what is the next ID number? All right. This is how we create our keys. Okay. Create our keys. Print assignment key or kind of primary key in primary key simulation type. Okay. And I just remind myself what does that mean. All right. So what is that? I created a new assignment. It is homework 1, new assignment key. Okay. So assignments dot append. All right. Let me add an assignment to it. So first ID. What is the ID? It is new ID. All right. So first I created the ID, then I intend to insert the assignment to the list. Okay. Now I can say one key is title. Okay. Intro to DB. Okay. Description. Basics of the database. Right. Now, let's insert a new assignment. So what should we do now? What should we do now? We want to make sure that the IDs are unique, right? We want to make sure that the IDs are unique. Before we attempt to do it, either we do it here or in order to not forget it, okay, let's do this pattern. I'm going to add this back here next, okay, next ID. Every time I use that, I can add 1 to it. Okay. That way, every time I'm creating a new ID, I will use this 2 line of code and I will make sure that it is unique. So now for the new assignment, I will use the same pattern. I will use the same pattern again. Okay. So I will use the same pattern. See, I've defined it once, then I'm updating the value of that key every time. Create a new ID. The ID number changes, then I attach it, create a new ID, and also increase the counter, the number of like the value. This way, I always get a unique ID. Now again, assignment dot append. Okay. New dictionary or new assignment. ID. New ID. Title. Case study. ARD. Description. Okay. Practice. AR design. All right. Oh. So you see the pattern. First, we need to create the ID and then insert the assignment. Kind of a similar pattern with database. So first you have the ID, and then put it into the dictionary and then insert it to the list. Every assignment has a unique ID here. Is this part clear? What we do it in each line, right? We created one number, like one value, one variable is an integer. Let's set the value to 1. Every time we kind of create a ID as a combination of homework plus the number, and then add one like to the value of that integer. Just increases over time. So we will have homework 1, homework 2. If you want to be more clear, let's print it out and see what we have so far in assignments. Okay, so print assignments. Okay, let's see what we have in the assignments. Now we can see, right? ID homework 2, ID homework 1. It's just the same pattern with a number attached to it, which makes it unique every time. And that's how we create kind of a primary for every assignment here. Any question? Yes.
Put it as assignments with S or just without S?
Is it somewhere? Assignments. Yes. All right. So what we did here was create part of the CRUD. Now it's time to move on to read. We've created the assignments, we've inserted them to the database, or at least stored them. Now we can read them. We can like look for something in the database. So I'm gonna use this. From now on, we're gonna specifically specify what is our query, and also think about input, process, output. First query. What is the query here? Okay, display. I'm gonna type it this way. Query 1. Display all assignments, data, error information. All right, that's my query. We're dealing with database, right? Every thing that we're doing is going to become a kind of a query. All right, so input, okay, process, output. Does this mean that every time does it matter? We try to do it kind of like organize our thoughts over time. Over time, you become good at it. You don't need to type it. You don't need to think about it. You automatically write the program this way. So for now, what is this task? Display all your assignment data. What is the input here? The input is like the total list of assignments. And then we don't have like at process, we're not searching, we're not updating that sort of task. It's clearly we're creating an output, display all assignments. So I'm gonna just type it into the output. For assignment, in assignments, all right, print. Now let's use fs string. Title, or let's actually use the ID too so we can see it. ID, and then assignment ID, right? And title, assignment. So if you recall, what I said was this is like, think about this list that you're searching and see what each item in that list means. In the assignments list, what is each item in the list? It's an assignment. It's an assignment, right? It's a list of assignments. That's why I choose. That's why I chose that name, assignment. Now it makes sense for me. For each assignment in assignments, that's what I'm doing. For each assignment in assignment. Yes.
You need quotation marks around ID.
Thank you so much. Yes. ID. Yes, thank you. All right. Okay. Great. So let's see. All right. Sub. See, for each assignment, now we have a unique ID, and then you can like see the title. That's why we use FSC so that like we can insert the value like variables or like directly using the list variables, anything inside the string. Okay, so that was query 1, display. Now, I want to look for another query. Next query. Query 2. Find an assignment. Okay. Find the assignment. The assignment title. Okay. Title is, what is it? Okay. It's, oh, not this one. Okay. This and display the assignment details, right? Could you recall how would it look like if you were writing that query in database? You remember? Think about it for a second. Select, let's say star, from, assignment, where title is equal to double quotation, like in treated data. Is that it? Right? Would be that exact phrase, right? So now let's see how we can code it here. So first, separate our code. Input, process, output. All right. So again, input, kind of here, it's okay, it's a sign. What is the process? What are the processes, or what is the process? And then we can move on if we have the output too. What are the process? Or what is the process? What is the task here? Look for where. What is the main verb here? What is the main verb here? Yeah. Find. That's the simple, right? That's the main verb. Find. So I'm looking for finding. What else? Is there other verb here? Yes. Display. Are these the same word? These are two different words. That means two different actions. You shouldn't mix them. If you want to build a system that is scalable, you separate the tasks. You break them into small chunks of code, single, like basically responsible for single tasks. Find is a single task. Find. Display is a single task, but find and display is not a single task. You're doing two things at once. Later, when we talk about methods, classes, scalability, you will see how much this matters so that you can reuse the code. Reuse the code. If I create find a chunk of code that is responsible for finding an assignment, can I use it to find something else? It's the same pattern, just the file is going to be different. It's the same pattern, we're going to reuse it. But if I try to use find and display and some query comes and says, just find it for me and see if it exists, then you cannot reuse it because the rest of the code is going to be different. So you have to write it down again. So reusability is the key here. Okay. So process. Let's comment. Commenting is very good. It helps you to structure your thoughts and then write the code much easier. Find an assignment. Okay. Find an assignment. And then here, display the assignment information. Right. So I'm going to type the code under the exact node that I have here. Then I look at it, I look at my chunk of code and think about this. Is this satisfying that line of code, right? That node I wrote. Okay, so let's get to the work. Find an assignment. So, find an assignment. What does that mean? A lot of time, okay, you want to say?
Oh, are you talking like what? Okay.
You want to talk about find an assignment. A lot of times, this is something that you want to think about. Can I, like, when I'm searching for something, don't assume that it exists. It might exist or it may not exist. So that's the assumption. Why it matters? Because that means I might find it, I might not find it. And then in the display, I'm gonna have to check whether I found it or not. If I find it, I should show it. So first, exist. Okay, I need a flag. Usually when I'm searching, I need a flag to help me to figure out if I find it, if this was satisfied, this task. Now, for assignment, in assignments, okay, if assignment title, okay, is equal to, what is this one? Okay. If that happens, what should we do? First, change the flag because we found it. Okay. Exist is true now. All right. So I found it. Let me just move this a little bit. Okay. I found it. Next, I found it. How do I actually pass it to the next one? So I need to store it somewhere and then pass it to the next person. Because I searched and I found it. It's like, hey, find it, like give me that file. You like search through the files and find it. The other person is responsible for taking care of that file. Your job was to just find that file. You found it, you take it out and give it to someone else. And that person is responsible for the next task. Is it updating? Is it deleting? Whatever is it, it's the same next person's job, right? But I need to give that file here. So that means found, okay, I need somewhere, okay, I need something like, let's say I'm gonna start it with none. Why do I need this? So here, if I find it, I can store the assignment in that variable, which in this case, it becomes a dictionary. Usually, if you're looking for something like this, set it to none. Yeah, set it to none. If you find it, then you can add it. And if you found it, you're done. You no longer need to like look for something you already found. Okay? The search is over. The search is over. All right, the search is over. Next person. I'm the next person. Do I just print it out? What if you didn't find that file for me? That's why we have that flag. First, we need to check if it exists. Okay, if I think that's how we write it. Okay, if exists, okay, print what found assignment. Otherwise, again, you need every task needs to have an output. Print not found. Okay, just make it simple. All right, that's about it. That's how we break down this query into multiple sections. This is a chunk of code, searching. This is a chunk of code for displaying for information. Now you kind of like can structure your minds around like these type of tasks. Right? This should look much better than like mixing things up. I'm doing 10 things. You don't want to do 10 things. You want to like only responsible for one task. They ask you to do it, you do it, then hand it over. That's how we build chunks of code. We want the chunks of code to be responsible for one thing. This thing, find it, hand it over. Don't worry about what's going to happen next. It's not my problem. My problem is only to find it. If you code this way, that means the scalability. You can reuse the code. All right. We are out of time. I want to quickly just post this, like the attendance. Sorry about the late. It took us a lot of time to get here. Please take the attendance. Thank you so much. We are about to get. What is it?
This is class. Oh, never mind.
Oh, yes.